friends, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about my favorite books I've read in each month of the year. So I've already done a video about my favorite books of the year, but I still wanted to do this because the other one was more of a sit down and talk video, and then I explain a lot about just things that have happened in my life this year. And I thought it would be fun to do it in a different format again for the people who don't enjoy sit down and talk videos, and also tell you more of my favorite books, because there have actually been quite a few this year, and I think it's always nice to have an excuse to talk about your favorite books, right? So we're going to go month by month, and I'm going to tell you what my favorites were. In January, my favorite book was Happy Place by Emily Henry. And I picked it up because it was the winner of the Goodreads Choice Award Romance section in 2023. And I thought, why haven't I read this? So I picked it up and I loved it, obviously. It follows the story of Harriet and Wynne, and these two have been the perfect couple since they met in college. And what we know is that these two have broken up, but they haven't told their friends yet. And there has been this tradition of going to this cottage getaway with their friend group every single year, and they decide to still do that and go there. And now they have to lie about it. And the reason why they're doing that is because the cottage is actually getting sold, and they just want to have a great few last weeks together there. They really don't want to break their friends' hearts, and that's why they decide to just basically fake date. And what I really enjoyed about this was the very unique way this story was told. So all of the characters felt like real life people, and it was just very interesting because the whole time you don't really know what caused the breakup, and you're just trying to figure out what happened. Of course, there's also this tension of them actually being broken up and then still having to pretend to still be together, which brings with it a lot of challenges and a lot of emotions, obviously. And I think the emotions that were being portrayed felt very real as well and very understandable. So I think this was just a very great book that talks a lot about how relationships can go wrong even though two people do really love each other, and what problems can arise in relationships and how important communication really is. When I went into that book, never realized that I would love this so much, because I'm usually not a huge fan of second chance romances, not at all. One of my least favorite tropes. But this one just really did it for me, and that's when I knew, Emily Henry, I have to read more of this author. So then February came around, and my favorite book that month was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. And I'm not going to say that much more about it because I've talked about this book so much this year already, and you're probably tired of hearing about it. So we're just going to keep it at that. Great book, magical elements, great romance, great writing style, and that also made me want to pick up more of Ashley Poston's books. In March, my favorite book that I read was Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and that is a Greek mythology retelling. I just did a video about all of these. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already. And because I talked about this book only like 2 days ago, I'm not going to talk about it again, but I did really like it. It's very action-packed. It feels very cinematic. Definitely my favorite book of March. In April, I didn't read very many books. I read some books for university that definitely weren't my fave, so there weren't many books to choose from, but I still have a very good one, I think. And that one was Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. That's the second part of Vicious and Vengeful series. I don't know the title of the series, but it's the second part of this duology, and I really enjoyed that duology. I actually filmed a reading vlog of it, but unfortunately everything I filmed was in slow-mo, and that was the most annoying thing, honestly, because I really loved that vlog, and I realized it halfway through, and then I just decided to stop it. That was awful. But I did really enjoy reading Vengeful. I did also really enjoy reading Vicious, and I'm going to read The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue next year. Nothing can stop me. I've said that for as long as I've had the channel, and I've had this book probably before I started this channel. I'm going to read this book. That's my number one priority for next year. I need to read it. And this series I can also really recommend. It's a great one. It is fantasy series that is about people who are way too ambitious to people who are rivals, and they are very jealous of each other. There's a lot of desire for power, and it's also about superpowers and how to get them. And they had the same research interest, and that's how they found out how people can get superpowers. And chaos ensues. So there's a lot happening in these books. I really like the characters. I really like that it was a darker side of fantasy and magic. It really leans into the dark academia theme, and I love dark academia. That is also something that I've realized this year. Definitely need to pick up more books in the subgenre, and I really like the darker take on superpowers and being a superhero and what that actually means and how destructive striving for so much power can be. Great series. Then came May and June, and my favorite books were Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Both of these, Fourth Wing in May and Iron Flame in June. I really loved this series so much. I was a bit hesitant going into it because I knew there was so much hype around it, and I didn't know if it was just overhyped or if it was really good. And it is really good. I really enjoyed it so much. It really reminded me of the excitement I had for fantasy series when I was a teenager, and it was just really nice to feel this feeling again. It's the same feeling I get with Sarah J. Maas books and Lee Bardugo, so yeah, definitely a really great series, and I'm very glad I read it. And I'm very grateful for my friend who lent me her books so I could read these. And of course, I'm really looking forward for Onyx Storm in January. I already pre-ordered it and I'm planning to do a reading vlog on this. I so want to know what happens next. It's just a great series. After June, there was a bit of, not a slump, but I was in the high phase of doing my thesis, writing my thesis, having to go back and forth between where I live and where I studied. Also went to the Aristo concert, which was great, but not that much time for reading. What I did read though was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, the first book of the series. And also the second book I think I finished in that month as well. And I really enjoyed it. Even though this definitely wasn't my favorite part of the series. I think that was the third part, Air of Fire, which is not on this list because in that month I read a book that I enjoyed more. Still, in this month, this was my favorite book. Even though I really thought that the main character was really insufferable. And I really didn't understand where the series was going. But now, definitely in hindsight, I can say it was more of a favorite. So, overall, if I had to rank this list, it would be on the lower half. But only because it was the first book. Then in August, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I also talked about this a lot. Don't need to talk about it again. Wow, there's so much traffic going on outside. I hope you can't hear it. If you can, I'm really sorry about that. Funny Story really manifested Emily Henry as one of my favorite romance authors. And I definitely enjoyed this one more than Happy Place. Definitely stuck with me longer and I connected to the characters more. But I would say the other one is angstier and this one is more focused on the romance. In September, I read Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. And this one I did not expect to love as much as I did at all. It is actually more of probably YA, new adult romance, but I loved the musical elements in this. It was just so amazing to read about and I loved the chemistry between the main characters. I really like the writing style, like the setting a lot. The whole striving for fame, striving for attention as an artist. Also always wanting to be the best one, trying to excel at what you're doing. I could really relate to that. And yeah, just a really beautiful love story with a lot of angst and subplots that were very interesting and very relevant. I just thought that was amazing. And in November, I finished the Throne of Glass series with Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. And while that definitely also wasn't my favorite book in a series, so the third one, I enjoyed this one more than the first one because everything came together. There was this great conclusion. And even though in this whole series, I wouldn't say that I liked all of the individual books that much, or I would say that I rate them 5 stars. The series just as a whole, I really enjoyed a lot. And I just like following characters over so many books, even though it's always a great commitment to start a series like that. But I'm really glad I did this year and that I finished it. And it took me how many months? I started it in June. June, July, August, September, October, November. 6 months. Half a year to finish the series. Oh my god. But yeah, definitely worth it. I'm glad I picked that up, and that was my huge project for this year. Because these books are long. At least the ones in the end. And now we are in December. And of course December isn't over. So I can't give any final thoughts on this. But so far my favorite book has been Cruel Winter with You by Ellie Hazelwood. That is a very, very short novella. So I don't know. Probably not going to stay on that one. I think what's going to be my favorite in the end of this is either going to be I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel or Crescent City 3, House of Shadow and Flame by Sarah J. Maas, depending on how the ending on these 2 books are. I really hope it's going to be the Sarah J. Maas one because I've been looking forward to this for so long. But yeah, I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. Also great book, great potential so far. So these were all of my favorite books for each month of the year. I hope you enjoyed this little recap, even though I didn't say that much about each individual book, but I still wanted to give you an overview of what my reading was like this year and which books I really enjoyed. Also how my reading fluctuates, because sometimes it can seem like people are just reading that much on the internet and on YouTube and stuff, but that's actually not true all of the months. I think in April, Vengeful really was the only book that would have qualified for a favorite of the year, except for 3 other books that I read for uni. So my reading isn't going great all the time either. So that is basically my conclusion of that. But I'm really happy that I found a very good book for each month. And I feel like the more I read, the more I settle into my taste and the more I know what I will enjoy and which tropes I will enjoy, which types of books. Even though there were some surprises in here and you always have to try out new stuff. Maybe I'll do a more in-depth view on my reading stats and stuff like that if you're interested. So let me know in the comments what your favorites of the year were so far and if there have been any months that were particularly good or bad. And I'm really looking forward to my favorite books of next year. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in my next video tomorrow. Bye!